What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of On the Record, the Fat Records fan podcast, where we're going album by album, side by side, and roughly chronologically through the whole damn catalog. I'm one of your hosts, Alex, here with Ben and Josh. What's up,
What
guys?
up?
How's it going?
Hey, fans.
Hello, fans.
Hello. All right. Today, we've got I think is going to be a really good episode for y'all. We're talking about three different bands that are all pretty deeply connected. They are all from the East Bay punk scene, and there's a lot of overlap between these three bands in terms of like how much they were like just friends and like they were like living together. It seemed like all these guys were just like all sort of living in the same houses and all kinds of stuff. Um, so the Fat Wreck album we're talking about is Screw 32's Under the Influence of Bad People. And I don't know I don't know what your familiarity with this album is, guys, but
Comp appearances and by name, that's pretty much it.
that's it. Okay.
I've listened to this record a decent amount. I'm pretty sure that my introduction to it was listening to it in your car, Alex. Um, but yeah, I listened to and have quite liked Under the Influence of Bad People.
Yeah, I agree. I used to listen to this one pretty frequently, way back when, and I had not listened to it in who knows how long. At least 15 years probably. It was just one of those records that after I had my time with it, and then I kind of moved on. But coming back to it, I was surprised at how much I still really liked it. If you're not familiar with Screw 32, they are, I mean, they're kind of what you'd expect in terms of their sound. They have that guitar tone that sounds like NoFX and Lagwagon, but
Big NoFX vibes for sure.
yeah, for sure. But I think like their style really breaks through on a lot of these songs and sort of differentiates themselves, even though the sound, like at first, first blush, maybe not the most unique thing. But I think that just the way that they construct a song and the way that they've sort of play with just like the tempos and everything are definitely different, and it sets them apart. And it just sounds a lot like NoFX, but I think there's also some other influence in there from the East Coast. Like I was thinking Dag Nasty for sure.
Oh yeah, I think that I want to say that it came up in an interview I saw. Maybe not though.
Oh really?
That,
Oh,
that there is some
yeah,
connection there. Now that you mentioned that.
yeah. I think they probably took some influence from them for sure. So this was Crew 32's second and final album, and when the album came out, I think only 2 months after they broke up. So
Holy shit.
yeah, so they didn't last long after. The record came out in February of '97, and then by April they were done. By the time, from what I read about them, by the time they got to their last show, many of the band members weren't speaking. And then after playing their last song, Andrew Champion turned to the band and said, "Thanks, I quit." And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a sweet last name, though.
Oh, it's not his real last name.
Could have just let me live with that lie.
Sorry. But there was something really interesting though that I found in the Wikipedia entry. So we've talked about it before. Fat has always maintained that they don't do contracts. It's always been like, you're gonna put
like handshake deals, right?
Right. It's like you're gonna put out an album. You're gonna come to us. They don't sign contract deals where you owe us records. It's just never.
Sure.
Fat Mike has always said, from what I've seen, Fat Mike has always said that they don't do business that way. That's why I thought it was interesting that the Wikipedia entry on Screw 32 says, with 2 large tours booked 2 records left on their contract and about 1 million T-shirts, the band had run its course.
Hmm.
So that makes me think somebody had potentially signed this band for 2 records.
Weird. Huh. Wonder. I mean,
Unless,
yeah,
I
because
mean,
you haven't really heard anything since about bands being on contracts with Fat either.
Mm.
Like post this album.
no, I'm pretty sure that, well into the 2000s, Fat Mike was still saying that they don't do business that way. So I thought that was really
Yeah.
interesting. So I don't know. I mean, perhaps
Do you know who put out their first record? Maybe it's something tied to their first album.
it's Wingnut, same one that put out
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that
those
wouldn't
early
be.
A.F.I. records.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's a curious one. I'd be very interested to see what the deal with that was.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Or if that's just somebody had, bunk info or something. Who knows?
Yeah, it's totally possible. And then another bit of interesting information is that the band has like reformed, and they have an EP planned for spring of 2023.
No shit.
Which would be right around the time that you're probably hearing this episode.
I know why I thought there was a connection to Dag Nasty. Looking at the Wikipedia, they put out a song on a Fugazi comp in 2016.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Um,
And that's a recent thing too, right?
2016, yeah.
Yeah, that's fairly recent for a band that's been gone for a very long time.
Yeah, a couple decades.
Yeah. But yeah. So with all of that preamble out of the way, let's get into the liner notes. This album was released on February 11th, 1997. The band lineup was Andrew Champion on vocals, Jimmy the Cheetah McCluskey on bass, Doug Sangalang, guitar and backing vocals. Sangalang is such a great last name.
These are all great names.
Yeah.
These all sound like mobsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Jimmy Sangalang.
Yeah. Jay Grant McIntyre on guitar and backing vocals, and Mark Mortensen on drums. It was
Mark Mortensen sounds like a guy who owns a butcher shop.
Yeah.
Coming down to Mortensen's. We got steaks, we got chops, we got burgers. That's it. All they sell. Steaks, chops, and burgers.
Like chopstick?
No, like pork chops.
Okay.
Although I do love chop. Well, I'm technically chopsteak also. Yeah, same thing. Do love a good chop steak. Shout out to Ponderosa. R.I.P. to a king.
Wow, Ponderosa, man, memories.
Every Friday with the family growing up.
Wow,
a solid time.
Every Saturday for me, and
I
would be told by my grandpa that I wasn't allowed to fill up on salad and that I had to eat meat first. Because I would just make big salads and just eat salad the entire time I was there.
Well, it's hard not to. They had so many options. I would go for the giant. I would just make a giant plate of like nachos and like beef and cheese and like black olives.
Taco salad, dude.
Pondo-Combo.
Dude, I'm telling you
now.
Oh man, I remember Ponderosa. Okay. This album was recorded at Fat Planet Studios in Van Nuys, California, Pyramid Studios in San Francisco, California, and Razor's Edge in San Francisco. It was engineered by Ryan Green, Adam Kramer, and Adam Greenspan. Produced by Ryan Green, Fat Mike, and Screw 32.
That dude is actually the nephew of Alan Greenspan, the like financial guy.
Like, are you just making that up, or are you being serious?
Well, the world may never know.
Okay. Well, if you know for sure, you can write in. But as far as the podcast goes, that tracks. What did you guys? Okay, before we get into this, what did you guys think of the style of the lyrics and how they were written overall? Because I found it to be very slippery in terms of,
I don't know what the fuck is going on in most of these songs.
Yeah.
They just feel like that they're there because they work for the melody most of the time.
Yes. That's what I was going to ask.
And a lot of them, half of my notes say this feels like it was written by a computer. Because it does. Like it feels like everything fits the way it's supposed to, but like none of it makes it's that Simpsons moment where she looks at the sign and says Yahoo Serious Film Festival. And she's like, I know those words, but that sign makes no sense. That's every song on this album
They
to
were
me.
all the lyrics were written by ChatGPT before anybody knew what it was.
Exactly. That's what it feels like to me.
Is that the Slavoj Zizek and what's his face?
That's it's the Bart getting the boot episode.
Oh no, Chat GPT.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
the
misheard you.
AI program that people keep talking about.
Um, yeah, so I agree with you guys. I found it kind of difficult to pin down like individual topics for songs. It's
Almost like verses would be different about different things at times. Like it was very confusing.
Yeah, I was having trouble.
what I will say is that like most of the records we've been talking about, they seem to just kind of be about like the vanishing American dream, corruption that's coming out underneath that vanishing dream, and a good dose of addiction struggles, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I
think
think it's a good window into the time frame too.
yeah, a lot of that's reflected here as well, from what I can tell. But it's just not so clear most of the time what he's actually trying to get at. It's sort of like it's like a mix of like artistic expression of like of writing, and then also just I'm gonna make this work for the melody because that's the way it sounds best.
Yeah,
So
which I mean, it is what it is. I guess if you're not looking to make too many overarching statements and stuff, as long as it kind of sounds good and isn't entirely gibberish, like kind of who cares, I suppose.
yeah, I mean, I think maybe that just helped it maybe give the record a different kind of identity overall, and
Sure.
maybe allowed them to sort of experiment with, they've got some very like unique, I guess, ways of playing, and like it's not that the vocal melodies are like something you've never heard before, but they are definitely like different. From
Yeah,
most,
there's some interesting patterns going on for sure.
yeah,
And honestly, too, like it could be an entirely selfish thing where like those words may mean a lot to him and it may have absolutely zero meaning to everybody else, and that's entirely fine too.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, everybody writes stuff differently. Let's from artists where like everything's left open to interpretation to people who write very literally to stuff like this.
absolutely. Okay, let's get into the album. And let's just start at the top with "My Crazy Life." I thought this was a really great opener. Um, I really love the beginning of the song. I think it's a great way to intro the record.
Yeah,
It sets the tone, and I think throughout the song you do hear a lot of those sort of stylistic tricks that you'll hear throughout the rest of the album. At least a little bit here. It does like a good job of just sort of like here's what you're in for.
yeah. I really like the opening a lot. I think the verses would, and then I feel like you'll find for me this is like a pattern through the record. I think the verses are a lot more interesting musically than a lot of the choruses are.
Hmm.
A lot of the choruses feel very not like plugged in, like, but they just feel a little more like by the numbers than the verses do. The verses, I think they take a lot more chances with like different rhythms and like start stop parts and heavier guitars and things like that. Which those are the spots it shines a lot for me. And I think the vocals in this first track are really good too. I vary a lot on certain songs where like I don't care for the vocals, but I think they're really strong here.
I think that's fair to say that the choruses and the verses. I think maybe I do ultimately agree.
Yeah.
Although I tend to like a lot of the verses. I mean, a lot of the choruses as well.
Yeah, I don't think they're bad by any means, but they feel very like they work for like, it's another situation where it feels like it works for that part of the song and that's good enough or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the song is kind of the casting of stones imagery that pops up in the chorus. Uh,
Hmm.
I just thought that part was neat.
Yeah. Um, and so speaking of the lyrics on this one, um, I was reading it as being about living in harmony with others, and being willing to let things go and to stop judging each other so harshly with how we live. That was my takeaway from it. Um, and I have the one line that I pulled from that was underlying values occupying too much time. That
Yeah.
was kind of interesting. All right, let's move on to Misunderstood. Ben, what did you think about this one?
This is one of my favorite songs. Album. Uh, I really like the cadence to the lyrics on this song a lot. And the lyrics just overall seem very well crafted for this song.
Yeah. This one I felt like this one was pretty clear. I mean, just it is about what the title says it's about.
Yeah.
Just about being misunderstood and making an effort to fit in can make you feel like a fake.
Yeah, this was one of the instances for me where it was actually pretty clear what it was about, as opposed to some of them where I just felt like it was a random lyric generator situation.
Um, I like the bass intro on this one, and I think that to circle back to what you were saying about the choruses and the verses, Josh, I thought I like I guess it's like palm muting that they're doing during the verses.
Yeah, I think that's what the term is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
they
cool.
do that a lot. That's like one of their fun tricks that they seem
Yeah.
to throw in a lot, and it always kind of works. Like
Mhm.
as long as you don't overuse it and go crazy with it, it's a cool sound. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they overuse it. And I like the way that they use it in this song. Um, and then I also really like the ending to the song. Um, it has like it changes things up with a sort of like a drum interlude, and then it kind of goes into the final verse, which I thought
Yeah,
was pretty cool. Any other thoughts on Misunderstood?
not especially.
All right. Let's talk about Broken. What did you think, Josh?
Broken was, I would say, probably one of my top 3 or 4 No Effects B sides. I think it's really really good. No, I like the song a lot. I recognize it from a comp, but I couldn't tell you which one. I tried searching for it because they've
Mm.
appeared on quite a few, but I didn't see any track lists. The How to Start a Fight comp sticks out of my head because that was one of a few comps that I had and a few friends had that we would constantly trade back and forth.
Mm.
So I don't know if it was that or one of the like old Nitro comps that just had bands from like every label on it. It was good. I mean, it's another just again, there's one of the songs where the NoFX influence feels extremely heavy, and I think there's a track we'll come back to it later on in the record where it almost feels like the exact same riff pops back up.
Mm.
It's got a much darker feeling than like No Effects does.
It does.
Like
Yeah.
It definitely does.
almost like their moody younger brother or something.
No Effects is
Yeah.
like goth cousin that like Sisters of Mercy.
Hey, and that totally tracks for the Bay Area stuff at this time
Yeah.
period. This is right when that type of stuff is like starting to like creep in. And we'll be talking
Yeah.
about bands that do that exact thing.
I was gonna say coincidentally
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like much like a darker turn for No Effects in some ways.
For sure.
Um, but I think I liked the lyrics on this one. And I read them as being about like you're being perceived by other people as someone who's broken. Um, but you know that you've tried your best to clean up your act, and you're just fucking sick to death of other people passing judgment on you. Um, he says, I still can't sleep, still looking for what I think I need. You know I tried, but they've still got that look in their eyes.
And
Um,
the chorus to this is really fun and catchy.
yeah,
This song is really catchy.
yeah. I also have the same thing in my notes. What I really like, I think maybe the most about this song is you can feel the real there's like an impact with the way that they move when they move from verse to chorus. It's like it just has like a really like great transition. Right. Let's move on to something you said.
Does
Um,
anybody else get a big Ignite vibe from this band on certain songs, so especially particularly this one and a couple other ones?
Now
I've
that
never been a huge Ignite fan, but like it's something in the sound or like the vocals the things he like reaches for feel very Ignite to me in a lot of spots.
I can kind of see that. I can think of
yeah.
the types of Zoe lines
Yeah.
that you're talking about. um, Speaking of which, something I noticed about this song is in the previous song, there was a line in the lyrics about beatings in the dark, and
Mhm.
that shows up in this song again.
Oh
Beatings.
shit, nice.
Oh, I guess I didn't catch that somehow because that's not like a common thing to say
No.
at all.
It's not exactly, I guess. All just names to life in the dark. It's just the same to leave a mark, sort
Mhm.
of thing. Referencing that.
That's a good line though.
Yeah.
Like even when the lyrics don't necessarily make sense, like I mentioned, like they almost seem like multiple little movements
Mhm.
per song, where like they don't necessarily have like a connecting theme sometimes, but there are really good lines.
Oh yeah, I agree. Um, I was reading this one as being about people who just like to hear themselves talk and going in like you're just going in circles with shallow conversation.
Yeah, I got a vibe of kind of like somebody who the guy who calls everybody else out and their bullshit and realizes like he's just as full of shit was kind of a vibe I got to a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a reality check sort of situation for someone who thinks he's just a little bit better than everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so for this song, I actually had a similar comment to what we said about the last one, about this one being very no effects in its sound. Um, and but they still find a way, like we were saying before, about how like just ways to change things up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting, and make it their own. But
Yeah,
I would say that like they're like this one largely does feel like a no FX B side. It's definitely this is not like one of the standout ones for me personally. Any other thoughts on this one? All right,
Oh,
let's talk about "Don't Let Them Take You Alive," which is more of a mid-tempo number. I like the intro with the feedback
yes.
and the bass. That's really
The
cool.
bass intro rules.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I think overall, this one it's solid, but it's not super memorable. Kind of fades
Yeah,
in the
musically,
background.
and I enjoyed it. The lyrics still feel real weird on this one. I do wish this band. I feel like we'd probably like this band way more if the bass player had like a cool name, like Mr. Precision had. Because I get big like 88 Finger Louis vibe from this song. 88 Fingers Louis vibes. That's really hard to say.
It is hard to say.
Um,
This
but yeah, the infamous Mr. Precision. Like if we gave this dude a name, like I don't know, like Professor Bass or like Doctor Rhythm or something, like Doctor Accuracy. We might appreciate this band a little bit more.
he has one of those. He's the cheetah.
That's
yeah.
not, but that sounds like I don't know, some sort of an athlete. That's
Jimmy
like
the
an
cheetah.
athletic. That's like an athletic nickname or something.
He plays the bass quite well, so maybe he's called
He
a cheetah because
does.
he plays so fast.
How many cheetahs have you seen play bass? Zero.
Hmm. Maybe do a Google
Zero.
search. Do a Google
Do
search.
it right now. You
I'm
ain't gonna
sure I
find
can.
shit.
You don't
Somebody.
think there's one in like the Jungle Book?
Oh, well, yeah. There's probably some weird old racist cartoon with a cheetah playing
I,
instruments in some
I think it's more.
bizarre band.
It's more likely you'd see like one of those like one of the newer animated Disney films. Or
Or like or like the Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas with like the River Bottom Nightmare Band.
what the fuck is that?
Oh, you've never seen it? We'll have to find a clip of it and include it. It's like my friend loved. I found out about it from a friend of mine who adores it and watched it as a kid. It's like a Jim Henson production, so it's all like Muppet
Oh.
animatronics and stuff.
Oh. Okay.
But it's literally like a hillbilly jug band with like a bunch of like otters and bears, and they just play what sounds like a proto like doom metal song. It sounds like a 70s like hard rock song,
Oh, you know
and it's
what?
kind of awesome.
I think I've seen this now that you've.
Dude, it rules.
Okay.
It just sounds like somebody doing like Deep Purple or something. It's cool, really cool.
Yeah. It'd be like a really interesting thing, like gimmick for a band, just to dress up like that and play like
Yeah,
that
just
music.
do that. I saw that band Max Sabbath recently, who does like McDonald's themed Black Sabbath covers. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
There you go. Same idea, different application.
Right, same shit, different toilet.
Yeah, that's maybe more appropriate.
Truly.
Yeah. So this track, it's okay. And I read it as don't be a sellout and live your life on your own terms. Kind of what I took away from this one.
Works for me.
All right. The last track on side 1 is Black Marker.
All right, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no way Ignite didn't sue this band. This sounds
Oh, I
straight
thought
up like an Ignite
I thought
song.
it sounded like an A.F.I song.
I can see that too.
It's more likely that it's more closely tied to A.F.I for many reasons. But I think it's fair to draw comparisons to Ignite, but like later Ignite, not Ignite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I'm thinking like place called Home era and like that style of Ignite.
Yeah, so if anything,
When he
Sweet 32 should be suing them.
Fair enough.
But it's more likely that it was sort of like, maybe they were taking influence from A.F.I. I thought this was a good. It's good. It's got like a unique. This one's definitely got like a unique delivery to it. And I do like the guitar work that they got going on. It's pretty cool. But ultimately, this was also not really like one of the standouts.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it does what it does really well, and that's sort of it for me.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Ben?
Other than sounding like A.F.I, I had initially thought about it as, a song being about feeling like life had passed you by. But there is a citation needed sentence on their Wikipedia page that says that they were known to tag their name with Sharpies on numerous objects and in numerous places, the results of which have been seen in places all over the country. And so I would imagine that's probably why this is called Black Marker.
Interesting.
If that is true and not just completely made up, because citation needed, bro.
It's a great correlation, though. I like that.
Yeah. Keep an eye out, maybe.
It's the OG viral marketing.
Yeah. I was reading it as sort of like accepting that life isn't fair and people are gonna take more from you than they deserve, and it can and it will hurt you if you let it. But I mean, it could also be about like religion and the demand for charity. Like, I just this was a tough one.
Yeah. I just wrote that I have a tough time with lyrics to begin with, and this band is honestly killing me at this point.
It is very difficult. It's like reading tea leaves at certain points.
It truly is.
All right. That's going to do it for side 1. So let's take a break. And I found a fun story about this band. I read an old article on the internet Wayback Machine. It was pulled from something called Stubble Music Magazine. And it was an interview with Screw 32. And they were talking to most of the band. But they somehow got onto the topic of a record that this band held, at least at the time, that they were, at least among like touring bands, they were well known for this feat. So the guitarist J. Grant McIntyre tells a story about this record. Quote, "At one point, we all had the record for eating the most French toast at a trailer park in Biloxi. Every single band that comes through there and plays at this trailer park, the guy's dad makes French toast every single night because it's really cheap and you can feed a whole band. He gets like 5 loaves of bread, and each band gets like 6 pizzas for each player. When we came in, they told us there was a record of like 13 pieces, so I just started eating. I got up to 21, and I was like, oh."
Whoa, dude, that's gotta feel awful.
Yeah. We came back the next time and we broke our record again. It's a big thing because a lot of bands come through there and they come to the Bay Area and talk to us and they're like, "You guys have the record."
Jesus Christ, man, that's insane.
So I think they actually say earlier in the interview that they have it was like 23 or 24 pieces.
Good Lord, you have to just be like sweating by that point, like that much bread.
That's like it has to be like a whole loaf, right? Like I don't even know how many.
Yeah, just about. I think it's got to be damn near. It's gonna be at least a loaf, if not more than.
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's a lot of bread.
Ugh, I
And-
remember.
Soaked in egg.
And egg, and then you're probably
Yeah,
putting. Were they eating the strip?
at the very least, there's some oil in the pan on
Yeah.
top of the fact that you're covering an
Powdered
egg,
sugar.
if not butter or some powdered sugar. Yeah,
Yeah.
syrup.
Well.
God.
Yeah. Respect.
I couldn't imagine. I remember friends and I used to have like a weekly, we would bust out the Nintendo and have like a Tecmo Super Bowl league in the summer. So every Sunday we'd meet up and play games for like 3 or 4 hours. And like somewhere in between would be like a dinner or a lunch break or whatever. And at one point there was a place that had opened maybe like a mile away from where we lived, like right down this hill. And they had this crazy, like huge brick oven pizza. And it was like ready in 5 minutes, and they had all this other like pizza style stuff that they could cook really quick because of this like giant oven. So they had these things called pizzadillas, which were just like mini calzones, like but essentially the things that Pizza Hut sells now as like a, I forget what they call it, but
Pizzone.
it's it's like it was like a proto pizzone. But they sold these fucking things for like 75 cents because they were just using like they were making dough in such massive quantities that like they could, they could. And it was again, it was filled with like sauce and cheese and pepperoni, and like they were so cheap, so we just bought like 30 of them.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there. I ate like I think 8, and I was just like sweating, and I was like, I'm going to die. Like this is how it all ends for me, is right here. Just I couldn't move. Like I didn't want to breathe. I was so tired. I was sweating. I was dying.
Oh
It was
man.
awful.
That's the worst kind of like food.
They were delicious though, and I was just like, I can't ever do this again. I can't ever eat these things again. And then that place closed shortly thereafter.
When you were first
So-
describing it, I wanted to interject. Are you just talking about a Little Caesars? When you said this pizzeria that could come out with like a pizza in 5 minutes.
No, they had one of those crazy, like huge, like I don't know how many thousands of dollars they cost, but it's like I don't know if it's a wood fired oven or what they had, but it was designed to fire pizzas within like 4 to 6 minutes or some crazy shit like that.
Dude, it's the best way to make a fucking pizza, in my opinion.
Truly,
Absolutely. Like Neapolitan style pizza, better than any other kind.
100%.
Fight me.
Chicago can suck it.
Yeah. It's
Anytime
funny.
I eat pizza in Chicago, it's never Chicago style pizza.
So the funny thing is that in the past like 10 years being out in LA, I'll run into people that are from Chicago, and almost every single time somebody will bring up pizza in Chicago.
Yeah, you're like the pizza in Chicago, right? It's really good.
Every single person that's from Chicago says the same thing. Like, "Oh, we don't eat that shit. That's for tourists."
See, I don't know. I guess. I mean, that is, now that I think about it, though, every Chicago I know that loves it and like goes to bat for it is a transplant.
Yeah.
So there may be something to that.
There's what I know as far as food with Chicago people is I think it's called Portillo's. Am I thinking of the right
Yeah,
place?
the
With, like
beef,
the hot
a
dogs
beef
and the beef
sandwich,
sandwiches.
That's legit.
dude.
People from Chicago love that place.
And you know what? Chicago beefs are the shit. I will eat a beef sandwich every day of the week.
Yeah, I
All
would
the
take
meat
that
juice, everything.
over.
It's so good.
I'll take that over deep dish pizza for sure.
Yeah.
The last thing about deep dish pizza is the Jon Stewart rant on the Daily Show from years and years ago is still,
I'm sure it's amazing.
still the best thing I've ever heard somebody say about deep dish pizza. It's just
Swimming
like,
pool for rats.
yeah, swimming pool for rats. He's like,
I've never heard that.
oh my god! All right, yeah, you gotta watch that. Just all you gotta do is type in Jon Stewart pizza rant, and it'll come up.
Oh, that's a gem. God bless
It's
Jon Stewart.
It's so fucking funny, and like his delivery is amazing too, because he's doing it in his like New Yorker accent.
Sure.
So it's definitely worth looking up. All right, let's play a game. And this one I'm gonna call "Who's on Fat." this is where, if you listen to, I guess it was the previous episode, where we sort of came across this idea just organically, um, where you look at the descriptions that Fat Wreck has on the website for different albums, and I thought it might be fun to just remove any mention of who the band or the record, or yeah, what the band or the record is, and just leave the rest of the description and see if you guys can figure it out.
Okay.
So we
Let's
got
do it.
we got 5 of these. They shouldn't be like unreasonably difficult, but I couldn't give you multiple choice because it would have been too easy, I think. So
Yeah.
here's the description.
Well,
These guys surf, but they don't eat meat. Call themselves vegans or something. Singer has lots of tattoos. Bass player is weird. Foghorn lukewarm. One angry punk album.
I know it's Good Riddance, and I'm guessing that it is Forgotten Country.
Do you have a guess, Josh?
I was gonna say Frenzel Rom actually because of the surfing thing.
Ben's right. You got both. You got the album and the band.
I think I actually
Nice.
recall reading it when
Oh,
we
okay,
were
yeah.
doing research for that album too, but like,
Wow, well done.
Yeah, I remembered reading them making fun of them for being vegan, which is funny because
Yeah, that does
Eventually.
track though.
Fat Mike joins their lot.
Yeah, I mean something that they would never do now. Okay, second one. No wacky concept records or cryptic liner notes for this one. Just their best songs and most cohesive album yet. That and some Sharpie mustaches. So I'll give you a hint that this is more
I
of
don't
like
need.
a.
I don't go pre-hit.
Go ahead. I have no idea.
You don't want a hint?
I think it's probably Propaganda. Let's talk more rock.
Okay. Josh, do you have a guess?
I would have guessed Propaganda, so I'll say yeah. I guess I'll just echo Ben's answer. I was gonna go Propaganda, but I wouldn't have guessed what album really.
No, it's not Propaganda. It's the Lawrence Arms.
Oh yeah, I was
yeah.
trying to think of liner notes where where they had drawings on the people, but I couldn't. Nothing was coming to mind.
Yeah, because I mean, the Lawrence Arms took like a band picture where they had drawn mustaches.
Yeah, the blacked out teeth and the
Yeah.
okay, yep.
Yeah.
So there was. That's what I was trying to think of. It was like a publicity photo, but I
Yeah.
had nothing.
Yeah, and this was for O Calcutta, which is why they're making the reference to wacky concept albums because
Yeah.
the last one was Greatest Story.
Yeah.
It's always funny when they throw shade at a band's just the last record they did.
Right.
Oh well, I mean, O Calcutta was. I guess it wasn't an actual concept album like the previous one, but it was still based on a piece of literature.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a full-on concept album.
Yeah.
Not in the way that the one before it was. All right, next one. Inspired by hurricanes, swamp gators, and corrupt elections, this punk rock magnum opus is their most mature stuff yet. Search Party.
I think I know what it is. I think it's what the hell's the title? The second Loved Ones album. Build and Burn? Did Fat put that out?
Yeah, they did. I was gonna guess Against Me and As the Eternal Cowboy.
Are those your final guesses?
Yeah.
Ben, you got the band. It's Against Me.
Okay.
Searching?
But it's Searching for a Form of Clarity.
The hurricane thing had me thinking because there was that song on that the Loved Ones album about rebuilding and shit like that.
Oh,
that was specifically about that.
I almost said Searching. I'm like, oh, he wouldn't pick a later album. He'd probably go for the earlier.
So just a little, stupid peek behind the curtain here. As I read through a lot of album descriptions, and it's actually a lot of the earlier stuff that they actually write interesting descriptions for.
Yeah.
Once you get, I think, maybe a little bit into like the late 2000s, they stopped doing it. They just write like really bare bones, kind of lame descriptions. But it's all the earlier stuff that they have like fucking smart ass goofy.
Yeah, I think once they realized that like they were reaching a wider audience, they stopped shitting on their own albums a little bit.
Or maybe they hired an intern, and the intern's too
That-
much of a bitch to.
That also could be too.
Yeah, you didn't major in creative writing. Okay. We got 2 more here. Some catchy East Coast anthems on this debut full length from 3 delicious cheesesteaks. They have their own statues next to Rocky in no time.
There you go, Josh.
Now you got this.
It's the loved ones, and
Yeah.
probably
Keep your heart, I'm thinking.
that was the first one, right? On Fat.
Yeah, because it was still 3 people at that point.
Yeah,
They
you got it.
added.
They added a fourth, I think, when around the time Build and Burn came out, or maybe before it.
I think they somebody left.
I think
They
one of the
added
guys from one of the guys left, but I think they added a guy from like the Explosion or something like that.
2 of them. 2 of the guys from the Explosion, I think, came on for that
Okay.
one. But yeah, you guys got it. It was Loved Ones, Keep Your Heart. And finally, Blank love a parade. They also love Munchkins, The Hand Jive, and Red-Headed Orphans. See how they express their love for these and many other obscure things on their new album.
Can you read that one more time?
Yeah.
Blank love a parade. They also love Munchkins, The Hand Jive, and Red-Headed Orphans. See how they express their love for these and many other obscure things on their new album.
Oh wow.
I mean, I gotta guess. I don't know if I even remember the correct name for the album though. I want to say there's a song about a parade on that one Mad Caddies album. Um, fuck. I
Yeah,
forget.
that is a good guess.
Like it looks
Yeah.
like a circus. I thought even just on the cover.
Mm. Do you have a guess?
What
Josh?
album is that? I don't.
Okay, it's
Man.
not Mad Caddies. It's Me First and the Gimme Gimmes are a drag. They all
Okay.
do,
Yeah.
yeah, they do all songs that like that you'd see at a drag show. So
Oh,
right. So
okay.
all the songs are like that. So that's where it talks about like because they're covering like Annie and
I'd say it was like a
shit like
song from
that.
Wizard of Oz, I think, in there somewhere, isn't there?
God, yeah. Man, I looked at the track list for that one just out of curiosity.
That's the only Me First album I'm not crazy for.
Mm.
Every other one of them I absolutely adore. Well, almost every other one of
It's gonna be a hard one for me. It's gonna be tough. I hate musicals. I hate them so much.
Yeah. I'm not a particularly big fan.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for the game. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. There's probably not too many more. I can maybe put together 1 or 2 more of game themed after that, just because they really did just stopped writing.
Yeah, they get very generic.
Yeah. And they didn't even write good descriptions for even all the old stuff from back then. So, but that was fun. All right, let's move on to side 2, which I think is much better than side 1 of this record.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And we'll start with Paint This Town Red, which I think is one of the best songs on the record. I love the intro to this song.
Yeah.
That like drum solo that leads into the second half of the song is really cool, and then the ending is really great too.
Yeah, the drumming in this song is, I think, the first time he really gets to shine, and it shows off how really good this dude is. Like, this song really does go.
Yeah. What did you think, Ben?
I mean, it's clearly the best song on the record.
Oh yeah,
It definitely is. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I love this song. Yeah, no, it just the way it starts, that kind of bridge or transition towards kind of like the ending chorus part, is pretty great too.
Yeah. And I read this one as being about like the anxiety of having nothing to do, but all the time in the world to like waste while you're just being anxious, and it's like enough to drive you insane. Because he says, climbing up the walls, hit it up until something falls. It's Hope's big day. I'm tired and it's getting late. Sick, sad, and wired. Gotta feel all the time. Avoid what's best, up for days, still can't rest.
Oh,
Sounds like a fucking nightmare to me.
I mean,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah, it doesn't sound like a good time.
makes sense. I kind of seem to think that it was about using drugs, alcohol, partying to avoid problems, but maybe a synthesis of the two there is,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're living in a nowhere town, and
Yeah,
that's all
for
you
sure.
have to do.
yeah, yeah. I think that totally makes sense. Okay, let's move on to "Sick to Death." What did you think, Josh?
So this was the song that actually, aside from the intros, this song and I think it's "Broken," which is the third track, almost sound identical to me. Like the riff sounds super the same. It's like a super NoFX-y, dark, like a darker NoFX-y kind of riff. But like the intros start for each of them, and I was listening to this one, and I'm like, I thought maybe my stream screwed up, and like my Spotify goofed, and I went and looked because I thought it was actually the same song. I do like the chorus a lot on this one for once, though, and it sounds like a song that should be on like a PlayStation 1, like a inline skating game or something.
Not Tony Hawk, but like
No, like one of the like proto, like before things really got good. Like
Yeah.
this probably showed up right after like a 59 Times the Pain song or something.
Should have been on one of those the BMX one or something.
Yeah, exactly. It was on like a Dave Mira game or something where it felt like you were riding a bicycle underwater.
I just assumed that entire soundtrack was just Pennywise.
No, there was a game where that was the case though.
Oh,
That was
really?
Sega's Top Skater. It was like the game that had like a physical, it was like an arcade unit.
Oh, really?
And you stood on like a physical skateboard and like leaned forward and leaned backward and like tipped left and right, and it would like react on the screen. And the
Wow.
entire this is how I discovered Pennywise, and by large how I discovered punk rock was this game.
Really?
Because I swear to God, because the soundtrack was just the album Unknown Road, like start to finish.
Oh, okay.
Which to this day is, I think, still the best Pennywise album, and it's definitely my favorite Pennywise album.
That's
I
cool.
remember loving Unknown Road.
Yeah, Unknown Road's great.
Forever.
It's just that they never did anything different after that. So every record is like a more poor photocopy of Unknown Road than the one before it. And then by the time it comes out, they've replaced him with the guy from Ignite. And then it's just like, it looks like the woman from Barbarian by the time that record comes out, because the photocopy is so poor. It's like 24th generation. Calls them like I sees them.
The woman from Barbarian.
Hey, man. If you know, you know.
Oh, fuck. I was not ready for
We'll,
that.
we'll put that in the YouTube.
I was-
Alex can edit that in the fourth square.
I wasn't ready for that. What did you guys think that the song was about? Because
I don't know.
this one, I think, to me, I read it as being about racism in America. Because he says somebody's hate has gone on far enough. A hand that's cut into such pain, a unhealed wound that's shown to everyone, and it will never feel that way again. We want a way to shake off all the past. Failing this, some other standards that last. But I was really reading that about just like the toll that racism has on people, and how, like, as a country, so many people are just like, can't we move on from it? Well, no, we can't,
No,
because
you have to learn from it first. Otherwise, what's the point?
right, because it's an unhealed wound, like he says.
Yeah.
So that's why I was reading it that way.
I can
Yeah.
definitely see that.
But yeah, I liked the lyrics on this one, and after like really like sort of like reading it a bunch of times, I started to feel like I understood it. So
Yeah.
but it's still, I mean, there's still like such like weird phrasing that I've never
I
seen
honestly thought
anybody.
they weren't American at first, and I was like, "Am I just being an asshole?" And like, there's like a language barrier, and I'm just being like an insensitive prick.
No,
No, it's just real weird writing.
it's weird. I think it really it has to be just that it sounded better phrasing it in these really strange ways.
Sure. Yeah, he's kind of just writing to the melody, which again
Mhm.
is, if it works, it works. Whatever's,
Yeah,
whatever's your thing.
kind of odd too, so it doesn't really like lend itself to like kind of the way people normally write things.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get with that type of approach. The band that always like pissed me off with their lyrics because they were just like complete nonsense was a Wilhelm scream.
Oh, it's just bizarre, like stream of consciousness.
Didn't mean anything, meant nothing, and like I would read it and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, that's one band where it just didn't matter because it was
Yeah,
more about just beating ass for
right.
2.5 minutes.
But that was the thing is that like at the time when the first time I heard that band, I had never like I didn't know of any other bands that did that.
Sure.
Because so many of the bands I listened to actually tried to say something, even if it was just kind of like whatever, just something lame
Yeah,
like
blanket statement sort of
yeah.
thing or generic or
But
whatever.
but then I would read their lyrics and be like, this is complete
Yeah.
nonsense. It's just what the fuck. Um, okay, let's move on to Sticks and Stones. I really like this one. This was one of the standouts for me. Um, I really like the intro, and how it builds up and then it takes off once the vocals come in. It's pretty cool. Uh, and it seemed to me like it was about this one was tough to figure out the lyrics as well.
I was kind of on the opposite for this one. This one didn't do a lot for me. It had another, no effects vibe I dug. We keep kind of returning to that, how it's
Mhm.
sort of like a more not evil no effects, but just a sad, beleaguered cousin of no effects. And I think it does work for them. It just this track didn't do a whole lot for me as a whole.
Yeah, fair. What do you think, Ben?
Thought it was an excellent fast song, but I also could not really. I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably about like the government or the war or something. But like, who knows?
Or the war or something.
It's really I was having a tough time with this one. Um,
Like
I
coffers definitely makes me think they're talking about like
yeah,
government budgets.
politicians,
Yeah.
political parties making promises to the faithful but never delivering on it. Like that was the type of thing I was sort of picking up on here.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want a person like you to lead. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what it says at the end. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Um, people that actually get stuff done, they don't always get elected.
Sometimes they
Um,
get shot.
yeah,
True.
sometimes.
Like, and when you really think about it, an astonishing amount. Like,
Yeah. It's all about putting somebody. It's the carrot and the string, just so you can keep getting elected. Kick the can down the road. Okay, let's talk about "Painless," which for me, this is my favorite song on this record.
This song rules.
It's a great
That's
song.
that riff. That riff is hard to fuck with.
Yeah, it is a fantastic song. I like this is one of those songs where like they never give you a chance to get bored with anything that they're doing. Like it
Yeah.
keeps changing. And I think that this song in particular shows off like all of the band's strengths.
Yeah.
It's just a really great song.
Although he does try to hit a weird high note this song, and it feels like somebody should have been like, "Hey, man,
I you
pull
know
it back." Just
I
oh
can
no.
I can kind of understand that. I like it.
it fits. I think it fits and it works, but it was a choice for sure. It caught me off guard. I was like, "Wow, he really went for it on that part." Like I didn't expect it at all.
In general, I prefer people that can't hit those notes trying to hit those notes than people actually
That's
It's
doing
fair.
it.
it's
To each their own.
the inspiration of the aspirations that he has.
Yeah.
This was another one that I'm fairly certain was like a compilation track, and it makes complete sense that it would be because it as heavy as it is still like super catchy too.
Yes. Yeah. But the biggest problem with this one is that out of all of these songs, this is the one where the lyrics I'm just like completely baffled. I have no idea. I just have no idea what this is.
This is the one of those songs that epitomizes that whole like writing for the melody thing, where it just feels like he
Yeah.
was just putting words in where they worked, and if it was phrases and it was fragments of a thought, as long as it fit the puzzle, like just throw it in there.
Yeah, I could not make heads or tails of any of this. So like the lyrics that I pulled, just to like give an example, he says, "These are the breaks. Please wash your hands. A comic language you can't understand. Last chance to show your face. Just one above, a life behind. If it's the last one in the place, lost to a world you'll never find." I no idea. So that's really my only problem with the song, or that the lyrics do kind of feel like just a bunch of nonsense almost.
Yeah.
But it's a cool ass song. So there's that.
It was a very good song.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about One Time Angels. For me, I don't think this is a bad song, but it does feel a little out of place, right? Like
I think this is a bad song.
I think he takes a different approach to the first like 2/3 of the song. It's the last part that feels like it belongs with the record, because it like
Yeah.
the song like almost comes to a complete stop, and then it like goes into this whole other thing at the end where you've got like you've got some gang vocals, but that's, I don't know. It's just like an odd song, and it's almost one where I could see that if they were gonna go for like a wider audience, they would have gone more in this direction. Because it does seem like it has more of like a poppy approach that's different from the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's a sore thumb for sure. Not like, I shouldn't say a sore thumb and that it's a bad song or anything, but yeah, it sticks out for me for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you think it's a bad song, then I mean, I think that's fair. Like,
I mean, I do. I always feel guilty saying something. I straight out being like, "This is
Who
bad," but yeah, I
cares?
think this is a bad song.
it doesn't matter.
I do. Yeah, I do not think this is a good song at all.
It's I mean, it's probably my least favorite.
I liked it. My main thoughts on it were threefold. First, thought it sounded very A.F.I. at times. Second,
Yeah, I could see that, and that's an aspect where that influence creeps in for sure.
thought the guitar hook was pretty good. And then lastly, the build and fast part towards the end, I also liked a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that part of the song. I like that
Yeah,
last
that
part.
last portion, I like the way it kicks in quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Um,
What did you think that it was about? Did you have any idea of what it could be about? Because I was trying to read it as about being in a band and how your popularity and relevance doesn't last forever. But like, I guess it could also be just about growing older and watching your friends move on or pass away. It's something like that.
It's just vague enough to be kind of about anything you need it to be, I feel like, which is fine.
Sure. Yeah, I couldn't really figure this one out, but it was definitely not as abstract as Painless was.
No, not at all. Like, and there's lines like that. People's passion for me fades away. Hidden plots, like, and that kind of fits that narrative too of like a band and waning favor with fans and things too.
yeah, I think probably people probably started calling it sellouts when they announced they were going to put out a record on Fat.
Sure.
You could see that type of dumb
It's
shit
the
happening.
East Bay, so maybe. Everybody at Gilman's just like, fuck it.
Right. Everybody's getting their tire slashed and knives out. Go down to I heard Against Me's playing down the street.
So what's interesting is that I thought it was kind of like, if you read it as being about being in a band and like your popularity sort of waning and you fading away, this was the song that that they played. That was the last song that they ever played, and that's when Andrew turned to the rest of the band and said, "I quit."
Shit.
So I was like, oh, it's kind of poetic.
It's very, very like statement making.
Yeah. It's like obviously calculated, but it was interesting. All right, last track, Responsibility, which I thought was, I like it. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
but it's
I
just
did not like it as much as the MXPX song though.
I'm
That
not.
one's
Not. I don't think I'm familiar.
it's super fun. There's hijinks on a golf course in the music video. It's a good time. I saw it on ESPN. They did like a weird making of joint thing with ESPN because they filmed it at like some big golf tournament at the time.
That is very weird.
It was very strange. It was one of the weirder cross promotions, I feel like. But it was also like early 2000s ESPN, so like doing a lot of like odd shit back then. They had like the Slayer commercials and stuff.
Wow. Oh man. ESPN, MXPX, and golf. Not three things I would have ever put together.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
What did you think of this one, Ben?
The song was all right, but I thought it was kind of weak as a closer. I think
I agree.
one time Angels probably would have made a better closer than
I was
this
gonna
one.
say there's
Yeah.
even other songs on this album, even besides Angels, but Angels feels like the obvious one to me.
Yeah. I think you probably could have just left this one off, or
That's the other option too.
yeah, or maybe just like move it to earlier in the album. I don't know. It didn't seem like it had like.
Can we make this one a hidden track? We'll put a couple minutes of silence, and if anybody sticks around,
Hey man,
they can hear your song, Dave.
that was all the rage back then. That's for sure,
Dude. That and negative time tracks.
Yeah, A.F.I. love that shit, man.
Oh fuck yeah, they did.
Speaking of, let's talk about Rival Records.
Let's do it.
So I keep actually skipping the description of Rival Records in these past few episodes. So
They know the deal at this point.
Yeah.
I'll just do the short version. We're just gonna
spoon feed these people.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about two albums that were released around the same time as Screw 32's Under the Influence of Bad People, and we're just gonna compare notes here. So we're gonna talk about A.F.I.'s "Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes." It was released on November 11th, 1997 on Nitro Records, and this is one of the best A.F.I. records.
Truly is. I have a tattoo of the boy from the cover of the album.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's cool as shit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting. Did you ever know where they got that album art from?
I've read the story, but it's been so long that I don't remember I've seen like the whole original piece and everything, because there's more to it, isn't there? Isn't it like a part of a larger piece of artwork?
Yeah. So it was taken from a magic set, a children's magic set.
Okay, that's what it was.
Called Mr. Magic, and it's from 1929. Like, I don't know how the fuck they ever came across this. Like,
that's really cool. Maybe who wonder if maybe one of them saw it in an antique shop or something.
Yeah, that's like the only thing I could possibly because like the internet wouldn't have been like something that they would. I mean, maybe, but
something maybe in books about magic history too, even, or like a cult type stuff, which feels like something they would be like reading at the time, anyways.
Yeah, possibly. Although it seems like they got into the darker stuff after this.
Yeah, this does feel like the kind of lead-in point for it, though.
Yeah.
Easily like their most aggressive record to this point, and the darkest for sure.
Yeah, definitely the most aggressive. And notably, one where they just kind of, after two albums of doing a mix of like poppy and like goofy joke songs, and then also I guess they definitely balanced it with some more serious stuff too. But
yeah,
for this one, it's like they just like we're just like, all right, we're just gonna kind of do away with most melody. It's just gone.
This was A.F.I. becoming the third son in Home Improvement when he becomes goth. The youngest son, when Mark goes goth and starts wearing dog chains. This is A.F.I.'s version of that, because they went from cute and innocent to like dark and evil.
I mean, the way I see it is the first two records are A.F.I. trying to be, the Misfits, and then
I could see that for sure.
This is them transitioning and trying to sound like Sam Hain instead. And
then that's a perfect analogy.
At a certain point, they just go full Danzig.
And then they go like David Bowie and beyond.
Yeah.
I think they just got way more into like East Coast hardcore, and they're just like, all right, let's just do this instead.
I mean, yeah, there's that very funny but cool quote of Davey Havoc saying that all he's wanted to do, I think, since he was a child, was sing for a
Being a
hardcore band.
hardcore band. Yeah, the opening for the He Who Laughs Last video,
Um,
which is a riff on did they do a riff on the opening of Goodfellas? Because he's like, I've always wanted, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a gangster.
so yeah, this is still one of my favorite. This is still my favorite A.F.I record, I think.
It's in my top 3 for sure,
It is
and probably always will be.
it is a very good record.
There's like
Um,
there's the rage here that like they only ever hint at like on some of the other
Yeah.
records. Like
This was the record you heard the stories about, like Davey having to sing with like a towel around the mic because he was cutting his hands with his own fingernails because he was just screaming and gripping the mic.
yeah,
Which is like one of those apocryphal things where you don't necessarily know if it's actually hearsay or not, but it adds so much to
no, it's real.
the
It's real.
vibe of the album. And yeah, like I mean, it does seem like a thing that's legit to me, knowing, being a fan of the band for a long time.
So there's pictures of it, I believe, and then there's also he did an interview that I watched recently. They had like a, I don't know if it was like done through like Yahoo or something like that. It was just on YouTube, but you can look it up. It's like just like a couple, like 4 minutes or something like that, where they talk about this record. And
Oh, nice.
he talks about that. He said that he was growing out his fingernails, and that's why
Yeah.
he was like gripping the mic so hard. I can kind of understand why they never did this again, because there are so many songs on here where I'm just like, dude, did you just rip a hole in your esophagus? What the
Yeah,
fuck?
like this has to just destroy your throat. Like even if you know what you're doing, like it's gotta just. Oof, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So from what I said earlier, as promised, just there's definitely a lot of overlap here in terms of like these bands knowing each other. Let's see here. Yeah. In the early years, A.F.I and Screw 32 were like a package deal because the bands would go out and try to get shows, and then they would just bring the other band as support.
That's what you do, man. Bring up your homies.
Yeah, for sure. So they were all like really close. And then they were this is interesting. Both A.F.I and Screw 32 were eventually not permitted to play at Gilman because they drew crowds that were too big for security to handle. So what they had to do was they had to be in the crowd and they had to jump on stage and play with unannounced.
That's amazing. That's fucking wild. Doing guerrilla shows.
Yeah,
I
that's really
think
cool.
they did that. There was the ceremony show where Davey Havoc jumped on stage.
Yeah,
and
they did Straight Edge Revenge,
with
right?
him. I wonder if that was at Gilman as well. Because
I
that
think it was.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the coolest performances ever. That was badass.
I thought of that one too when I read that story. I was like, that for some reason it just reminded me of that ceremony show. That's pretty cool. So I do have a question. I don't think anybody. There might not be an answer to it, but maybe you've read something. There are 4 songs on this album that reference the number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always wondered about that. I don't remember ever
Some of my favorite.
discovering any like specific link, but I guarantee you A.F.I message board has something to say about it. There's no way they don't have
because
theories.
it's their 3rd album.
Well, also, I mean, they love fall. This is when they got real into fall. The next record's All Hollows, right? And 3rd season. Fall's the 3rd season.
3rd season, 3, and 000.
Yeah, there's what are all of the songs? 3 Reasons, 3rd season, 3 Seconds Notice.
Oh, I forgot.
And 000. All
000
references.
is such a banger,
dude. Yeah.
000 is brutal.
So that's What are your favorite tracks from this album?
For me, it's 000. It's the Filth cover.
Very good song.
Today's Lesson, and probably A Single Second.
You got a great story about the first time I heard Single Second, because I was in the car with you, Alex. I was very disoriented. You were driving, I think, somewhere near your neighborhood. And I just look up at you and I say, I am so lost. And then, bam, Davey Havoc just starts singing, "Never ever felt so lost."
Oh my god, I remember that. Holy shit.
Like, on the moment I said, "I am so lost right now."
I do remember that now. That is really funny. Oh, wow. Um, yeah. My favorite song is A Single Second. That's my
Single Second's really good.
that's my favorite song on this record, which is pretty tough because even as I've been listening to it pretty frequently and going back to it, and I just keep like I kept going back and forth. I was like, is it my favorite? I don't know if it's my favorite.
Dude, it really is so good though.
Um, but I think that like what makes it even better is Nick 13's counter vocals.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Really cool. And apparently that was his idea too. Like Davey was like working on the song and he was trying to make it work. And he said that Nick 13 was in the room with him and he was just like, oh, he's like, I think you got it, but I think it needs something else. And then he sang
Yeah.
it and Davey was like, oh, okay, well, then come sing
I used
it.
to love the rare chances you get. Like I never saw the tours where they would play together, but like
Mhm.
you'd see the videos where like Tiger Army would open for them and they would do it live, and it just sounds as cool live as it did on the record.
Yeah, that would have been fucking awesome to have seen that.
Coin
Ben.
Return is another one of my favorites on this. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you guys are bringing up. But Coin Return and The Devil Loves You are two other.
Devil Loves You is really good too.
I don't think there's a bad song on this record.
No.
No.
Like,
No.
yeah, the whole thing's great.
But there's like those couple of seconds, there's a couple of instances where Davey really goes for it that still stand out to me. Like the end of today's lesson when he says, "So fuck you," and it's just like this.
Yeah.
Draws it out, and I was like, dude, what?
Even how mad he is at the beginning, like, you better listen up real fucking good.
Yeah.
And like it just sounds like his voice is gonna blow out the speaker.
Yeah. I the way like the note that I wrote about it was that it sounds completely unhinged.
Dude,
Just,
100%.
Like it's out of his fucking mind. And it's fucking awesome. Okay, so here's like a funny like thing that like after I read the thing about Andrew Champion quitting Screw 32 and he said, I quit. This could, I don't know, like the song 3 Seconds Notice where Davey says, I quit. Okay, so like these guys were very close. They all knew each other really, really well. The song isn't really about quitting the band, but it is. But like, maybe, do you think there's a possibility that he saw that happen, or he heard that happened and was like, "Oh, that's dope. Let's put that in a song." Like, I quit, and just like make it as fucking gnarly as possible.
That it would be wild if it's true.
Yeah, there's no evidence to suggest that it is.
Sure.
Other than the fact that they were so close, and that's how he quit the band. So I just thought that was, after I read that and then I listened to that, I was listening to this record and I was like, oh, whoa, huh, maybe, possible.
So,
you got anything else?
Remember how I said that I didn't come up with anything for that Bad People game? I actually did. I just found it. It's at the bottom of my notes here. We can do that as a transition.
Okay.
I made up a game called the Bad People game. Basically, because the song, the album in question today was Under the Influence of Bad People. So I found two very bad people, actually three, because two of them are brothers. And they've invented something or created something that's made the world a worse place. So the first person is Alfred P. Southwick. This famously bad person was born in 1826 and died in 1898. He was a steamboat engineer, he was a dentist, and he was an inventor. He was also a professor at the University of Buffalo. According to a database that keeps track of these sorts of things, since 1977, at least 163 people have died from his most famous invention. What did he invent?
I don't know. How many people have died?
163.
Hmm.
They keep stats on this.
Was it the inventor of the gun?
I think we've definitely
No.
seen more deaths than that
Yeah.
from a gun.
Also much that would have been way earlier.
Yeah.
Gotta give it a shot, folks.
I don't know.
Do you
Like,
guys want a hint?
Yes.
The answer will shock you.
Ben Franklin.
the electric chair?
Yes.
Okay.
He's the inventor of the electric chair.
He invented Ben Franklin. And Ben Franklin invented electricity.
That's right.
All right.
Godfather of murder.
So the next are a pair of brothers, Zweier and Henk van Laar. These brothers lived in the Netherlands and are presumably still alive. I can't find a lot of information on them. But they created the first of a particularly terrible type of business that is very popular with bachelorette parties. There is currently a law firm in Decatur, Georgia, that advertises help for people that are injured by this type of business. What type of business did they create?
Strippergrams.
No,
Mechanical bull.
not
Gummy
the mechanical
penises.
bull.
Gummy penises.
Inflatable penises. They just poke people's eyes out.
Not the inflatable penises.
Those hats with the dick on them.
They give the illusion. This business gives the illusion that you are exercising while you're on your bachelorette party.
Like a bicycle with a dick on it?
Or is it the
Getting
bicycle?
closer.
The bicycle with the it's like it's like a
The Sibian?
like a beer. it's like those people have those fucking. It's like a bar, but like everybody's like pedaling a bike.
Yes.
Really?
It's they invented the first pedal wagon business.
Oh my god! And it's like still just like the dumbest shit ever.
I hate it so much.
Oh, they're the worst.
Fuck a pedal wagon.
They drive those things through all the gentrified neighborhoods in Cleveland, and like they're all on the border of areas where like if that thing was driving at night, all 8 people would get robbed.
One of the worst moments of my life, a bachelor party of cops. Like they had like, a bunch of them had like the fucking Punisher cop tattoo and stuff like that. That bachelor party of cops ran into a bachelorette party on a pedal wagon at an intersection, and I was stuck behind the cops.
Bachelor party full of tops?
Cops.
Oh, cops! You said.
Yeah.
I thought you said tops with a T, and I was like, that is super presumptuous.
No. It was.
I'm sorry.
Like,
go ahead.
6 cop dudes trying to holler at a bachelorette party at a pedal wagon. It was terrible. Yeah, fuck them.
A bachelor party full of tops.
You know, they got
I'm an idiot.
Cop Punisher tattoo on him. Party full of
Oh fuck.
Oh boy. Well.
Back to blue.
Jesus Christ.
Don't. I'm kidding. Don't back to blue.
The only. Oh yeah, no, I don't think so.
It's not what we stand for here.
Just this has nothing to do with anything except under the influence of bad people. You know who's under the influence of bad people? Dave Chappelle. Get your head straight, Dave. God damn it.
Did you see that tweet from that actor Bokeem Woodbine?
Yes.
He dude, it's so good.
Really
he's
funny.
The actor. If you're not familiar, he's the guy that play in Marvel movies. He's the Shocker in like the first Spider-Man movie with the Tom Holland one. He's also really, really good in a movie called Queen and Slim. If you haven't seen it, it's outstanding. But he posted a tweet that was like, all y'all motherfuckers that called me the evil Dave Chappelle deserve. I demand an apology right now. He goes, and the way you can tell the difference between me and Dave, he goes, is Dave is the one with Elon's dick in his mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, My Bokeem Woodbine is getting it. Like, let's go. Retweet all over the world.
Good stuff.
I thought you were going to say Donald Trump, whoever told him to release those NFTs of him, like,
Oh my
Can you
God.
imagine when this episode comes out, how many more things he's marketed and sold since? Selling digital trading cards that now are valued at like $2 a piece.
How did they sell out? How?
I mean, artificially restricting supply so that you can sell
Yeah.
yourself on the
Has
black
to
market.
be, right?
It's easy to sell out of something that's digital because you can just say it's sold out.
Yeah.
More coming.
Fuck.
I'm excited for the gold-plated coasters next summer. I'm sure those will be a hit.
Did you see all the actual artwork for the trading cards? Holy shit.
Dude, it's insane. It's
Holy
a
shit.
fever dream of insanity.
It's just, man, can you imagine if you're an artist that got commissioned to do that? Like just what a fucking joke.
The thing is, the worst part is you'll probably never get paid.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like the guy infamously hires laborers, and then his whole secret to success is not paying people.
Fuck you, Donald Trump. Okay. Let's talk about our last record. It's The Nerve Agents, self-titled. And
I love the artwork on this album so much.
yeah. And what did they do? I guess they saw it. I wonder if they saw it like on the internet somewhere, and they just like contacted the artist and bought it from him.
That's awesome. It reminds me of like going back to arcade games and like that Area 51 and stuff like that. Those like
yeah, totally.
post-apocalyptic, like toxic Holocaust, like world-ending scenario video game, like shoot 'em up games.
Yeah. So we very recently covered Eric. How do you pronounce his last name?
I would say Ozine, but maybe it's Ozine.
Ozine.
I've always said Ozine or I've heard Ozane, but I've just always said Ozine because it's just what I said.
Okay.
You just have to choose one, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, Eric. We love you, but I just don't know how to say your last name. But we
I feel your pain.
We recently talked about. Me and Ben couldn't even get it right at first.
I've been friends with Ben and Alex for 20 years, and they can't say my last name right, so it's fine.
Because like I don't think I'd ever heard you say it out loud until more recently.
No, well, I mean, it's weird.
Often?
It's not. Yeah, how often do you hear people say their last names though?
Right. But yeah, so we covered Redemption 87 very recently. And you know, the Nerve Agents in Redemption 87, at least in this earliest iteration of the Nerve Agents, not that different. Like
No, not at all.
Different, but not like you might
a little more polished.
You could
maybe
be forgiven if you'd only ever heard Redemption 87 and then you heard the Nerve Agents. You'd be like, "Oh, it's a a new album from that band, right?" But it is different because of the tone, but
the lyrical tone is complete. Like, Redemption 87 lyrics are like, fairly positive, uplifting. Like, this is about you're gonna die in a fucking nuclear war.
Right? Yeah.
But that's
tone matches the aesthetic for sure.
That's only on a couple of the songs, though. I think most of these lyrics are actually very positive.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities between Redemption 87 and and this Nerve Agents release. But they're separated by I guess they were. It seemed like they were taking more influence from bands like the Damned and Misfits and TSOL.
Yeah, the Misfits TSOL thing feels super apt for sure.
Whereas Redemption 87 was just like Youth of Today worship.
For sure.
Which this is sort of. This is.
It's still. I mean, he's still taking that same vocal approach. So that hasn't gone away, and it's actually more unhinged than ever here. He really amps it up in the same way that Davey Havok was amping it up on Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes. And so more of the overlap between these three bands. Screw 32's J. Grant McIntyre was a part of Eric Ozin's first band, Unit Pride, who were at the time they were called Misled Children, all the way back in 1986.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that's like they go back a long way. And then after Ozine left the Marines and returned to the East Bay in 1994, he lived on Andrew Champion's couch for a spring and summer, and he met Lars Fredriksson, who pushed him to start Redemption 87.
Nice.
And then that second Redemption 87 record had A.F.I.'s Jay Puget in the band, to join the band for that record. So
Oh,
it was
nice.
just like all these different, like, crossing over between these three bands. And I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, I didn't know that they were all that close, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben, tell me some of your favorite songs from this record.
I mean, I listed out 5, which I realized was like pretty much the entire thing.
Almost the entire album,
but
yeah.
like, I mean, freaking Carpe Diem is what
Carpe Diem's
sold
a
me on the
super
band.
sick opener.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Partly because like I'm a little bit of a nerd, and so like in high school, when like bands would have things that reference things I was learning about in school, I'd get real excited.
Yeah.
So like, oh, that's the thing that was it Caesar said? Yeah, that's a Caesar
Yeah.
quote. Yeah.
Hey, quick correction. This is Ben. I was completely wrong. Carpe Diem is from Horace, not Caesar. Whoops.
Unblossom, The War's Not Over, Level 4 Outbreak, Black Sheep, great song.
Yeah, Level 4 Outbreaks on my list too, along with Carpe Diem and I Keep Screaming, the closer.
Yeah, I really like I Keep Screaming a lot. Yeah, level 4 Outbreak feels like it's like if this
It feels
band,
dangerous. Something
right.
about it feels dangerous as hell.
Plus like the topic at hand, it's like if this band had an origin song, this is probably it, right? Like
Right, yeah.
it's like because it like calls back to the title and the artwork of the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so and plus it directly follows on from Eric's experience in the military, because he said that the first time that he had ever learned about nerve agents was when he was in the military. So he sort of came out of the military having like a very like changed opinion of, obviously of being in the military, and then like all the shit that they do and all the, just like I guess there were just like a lot of things that he just didn't at the time know about until he like learned as he was,
I always kind of wondered about that, like especially because like the first band winds up being called Unit Pride, which is like a very, I mean, sure it's much more pride with the people you're serving with and not,
Yeah.
Um,
well, but that was so early. That was before he ever joined the military. Because Unit Pride was in the late 80s, and then he left to go into the military in 91 is what I think
so
is what I read.
It's almost like
He was
interesting foreshadowing.
He was
then.
only in the military for 3 years and he left. Yeah, because I was reading an interview, and we'll post a link in the show notes from Rev HQ. I had this interview posted from, I don't know how long ago this was. It might have been relatively recent, because he talks about oh yeah, he mentions his work for the past 18 years since the Nerve Agents. So this was probably this is really really recent. But he talks about the song Carpe Diem in this interesting pull quote that I have here. It's a little long, but it is, I think it's worth hearing. Quote, "One of the Nerve Agents songs, Carpe Diem, was about seizing the day. A lot of my own work for the past 18 years since the Nerve Agents has been about finding joy in each moment as I live a full life surrounded by death and its processes. My lyrics were generally filled with encouragement or the attempt to encourage people to think deeper. I had to encourage myself to live a better, more fulfilling existence, and it has had its rewards." My writing about joy, death, and psychological struggle tends to be the very things I'm wrangling with in my own life. I would really encourage anyone who is open to doing so to look deeper inside themselves and draw upon strengths that we all have within us, even if you say that you don't or can't, and find those strengths to live a richer existence. Slow down and be in each moment fully, seeking out the joy in the very details of the moment. Seize it. Everything in your world and those you come into contact with will likely benefit. Rise above the darkness, despite how uncomfortable it feels. Hell, change is uncomfortable and scary. So instead of running, fuck it. Step up and embrace it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah. It's a fantastic interview. I would encourage anybody that is listening to this to just go into our notes and follow the link. It's worth reading the whole thing. He seems like a really thoughtful and intelligent person.
Yeah. Yeah, everything I've ever heard from him makes him seem pretty legit.
Yeah, so a lot of respect for all the art that he's created. Yeah, because this record's fucking awesome. Honestly, like it is. It's hard to say that there's even anything weak here. I don't think there is. I think it's
No.
really really fucking awesome. And honestly, and I think the Nervations only get better from here too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
band ruled, man.
I hope we can talk about one of the LPs.
Oh, I mean,
At
I'm
some
all
point.
for it. I think we should.
Oh,
go for it.
absolutely.
Yeah, because they're all different. They're very different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of On the Record. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections on anything we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com, and we'll set the record straight in a future episode. Whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, or watching us on YouTube, don't forget to rate and subscribe. And while you're at it, leave us a comment. Tell us your favorite or least favorite Fat album, or maybe to spice it up, you can tell us what album is the most okay. No one ever does that, so let's start.
Yeah. What's your most middle of the road Fat release?
Top 10 most average Fat Wreck albums. Go for it. Just I want to see that list.
It's all snuff albums and high standard.
No, I was thinking it'd probably be half of them would be Face to Face.
Yeah.
Did Fat put out that many face-to-face records?
Well,
Dude,
later.
Who cares?
More recently. All right. We will be back next week with our final episode of the season, where we're going to talk about Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Have a ball. Thanks for listening.
And we will have a ball. I mean, we're going to have a ball next episode.